Would you go for it? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I sit down with fabulous people for go-win conversations so that you can do three things. You can learn, you can be inspired, and community can happen. I want you to be able to connect with the people that I sit down with for these conversations, and that we help each other achieve the wins that we have defined for ourselves, because go win is defined as being consistent and doing the right things that allow for you to achieve the wins that you have defined for your life so that you can live out your greatest story. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's my first PhD. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rebecca, I sometimes forget that you have a PhD, but that you are a doctor. Today I sit down with my friend Rebecca Eastman.
This episode is brought to you by Paradigm Shift. Paradigm Shift works with educational groups, corporate teams all over the country to unlock every individual's leadership potential through curriculum and team building and so much more. Paradigm Shift believes in learning leadership through experiential learning. There's something special about the act of doing rather than just listening. We want to show you the power of connection through Paradigm Shift. Visit ps.company. You heard that right. ps.company, not ps.com, to explore topics, workshops, and curriculums. Let's create positive change together. And I want to vouch for Paradigm Shift. I've done some work with them in schools and in corporate settings. They are dynamite. Go check them out. ps.company.
Doctor, what do you want to be called?
Just Rebecca is
Just
what
Rebecca?
I've been Rebecca a lot longer than I've been a doctor. So,
Oh, how long have you been a doctor?
so 7 years ago I finished. Finally, I took the long road to get it done.
What made you go get your PhD?
It's a blessing and a curse. I kind of have a high need for achievement, and so I enjoy learning. I enjoy school, which sounds crazy, I know. And so as I started to get my master's and was working in the hospitality industry at the time, and just saw the opportunity of, wow, I could teach the next future of of folks working in the hospitality industry. And the way to do that in higher ed was to have that PhD. So I thought, well, you've got to have it. And again, it's kind of achievement driven. That's what I started in. I had no clue what I was getting into.
So now there's different types of PhDs. Is that the best way to say that?
There's different types of doctorates. So
Doctorate,
you can
okay.
have a PhD, you can have a doctorate in education, you can have a professional doctorate like a medical
Juris.
doctor or
Yeah.
a lawyer, juris
Yeah.
doctorate. So farm docs, I think physical therapists now have to have doctorates. So
Yep.
there's different types. And I went the academic route of the PhD, and very research focused, which I don't know what I thought it was. Like,
So did you have to do a lot of research?
I did. And
So when people say that, what does that mean? You get on Google and you just start searching Google? What does it mean to research?
to research. And we use that word a lot now these days, especially with COVID. It's like, well, I've done my research on COVID, or I've done my research on the vaccine. I'm like, okay, you Googled
Yeah.
a couple of websites. That's a little different than what we would look at as far as like academic research. And so it's reading, it's a lot of reading, primarily academic journals, so other scholarly publications that have a lot of rigor to how they their research methods, whether they do an experiment or they test a model with a survey, those types of things. And there's qualitative research, quantitative research, but that's where I was a little naive, I think, of I have no clue what I'm doing. And quite frankly, I realized I didn't enjoy the process. And so that's why it took me so long to get done. I just thought, oh, you just take a lot of classes and I can write little papers, but this was a 200-page paper
goodness,
that,
yeah.
you have to do the literature review of other scholarly journals. And they just, anyway, and I work in higher ed, so I really need to be careful.
Because they're like, this lady doesn't even like researching.
Right.
Yeah.
So I value research,
That's a great
academic
way to say it.
research,
Yeah.
but what I really value is applied research. And that's where let's do research. Let's talk about things. Let's really study things and then give it that application of, okay, how can this really change how work gets done, how students learn, how businesses operate, whatever it may be, right? So really looking at let's do research that has changed, because there are some researchers that research just for the sake of developing knowledge, right? We want new theory development. Then you have more scientific, hard sciences research. Those are the people that do the research to understand a virus like COVID, or to understand how we can develop a wheat strain that survives Oklahoma heat, right? You need that hard science. I'm more in the social sciences. And that's studying a lot of human behavior or practices, why people make the decisions they do, marketing behaviors, or understanding pedagogy for students in the classroom. So mine's a little softer social sciences, but I don't enjoy it quite as much. And I'm not very good at it. Yeah. So on journal articles, like you in higher ed, you want to be listed as like a first author to help. That's how you get promotion and tenure within academics. I'm a really good second or third author. Like I'm good. I'll come alongside you and I will help you and I'll be on the team. I don't need to be the first author. But I'll help you look at that survey. I'll help look at journal articles. I'm just slower at it than some. And there are some brilliant minds, and I respect them and I appreciate them, and I know we need them in higher ed, and I'm glad they're my colleagues. I enjoy teaching more than I do research.
Mm-hmm. So, you went into getting this PhD. You weren't quite sure what it was going to look like. Well, you got into it and you was like, "Oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this," right? But you got into wanting to get your PhD for advancement, or because you felt like getting that would help you be able to add more value to students. Why did you do that?
Yeah, just really the advancement piece, the desire to be in higher ed, which I ended up pivoting a little bit in the process, but you really needed to have that PhD to have the credibility and kind of be given that opportunity so they could get in the classroom with students. And so that's what pushed it. And then my need for achievement, that's the top of the food chain, right? That's that terminal degree. I'm going to go for it. I want to be the best in my field. And, so you just did it, and I persevered. But the university gives you 9 years to finish your PhD. I figure if they give you 9 years, you should use all 9 years.
you use as many as you possibly could, right?
Yeah, my husband wasn't as excited to pay tuition for all those years.
So now that you have it, what have you seen flourish out of having that PhD?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was probably the hardest thing I'd ever done. And so from a personal standpoint, it gave me, it taught me that I could do hard. And it taught me that, and I had really good professors and advisors along the way that because where I struggled was, oh, this isn't good, and so I wouldn't turn it in to my advisor and to my committee. Oh, this isn't good. And my advisor said, the point of your dissertation is not your full body of research work. It is the start of it. And can you demonstrate you have competencies to do it? So it taught me to kind of humble myself a little bit, and I needed a body of work. It didn't have to be, this wasn't my defining moment as a faculty member, this one thing. And I needed to demonstrate competencies, but the process of the committee is for them to give you feedback and you to take that feedback and incorporate it. So it really taught me that process well. It taught me to do hard and to do things that, we gravitate to things we love and that come easy to us. And so it didn't come easy to me, but I still had to persevere and use that tenacity to get it done. And so I learned that personally, I think, that I can do hard. Yeah. And so then I started doing other hard things. Like I ran a half marathon. Like, why would I do that? But it was like, because it's hard, So, so that helped me personally. Professionally, it kind of opened up doors. So in the middle of working on my PhD, I was on clinical faculty at OSU, which was a great opportunity. But then Meridian Technology Center, I had an opportunity to go over there. And I hadn't finished my PhD, but Doug Major, the superintendent, so encouraging, said, persevere, push through. How can we help you? It was so great. And once I got it done, it just adds some credibility believe it or not, especially when you work in education, to come in with that doctor. In education, it opens doors.
Yeah.
And then it has since led me back to OSU about 9 months ago. So
That's cool.
no regrets in the middle of it, though. I had to poke my eye out with a pen.
So, in getting that PhD, you feel like it has helped you kind of advance in your work, and also, but in that, I know that you worked with. So I knew you when you first were at Meridian.
Right.
When you were at Meridian, you worked with a team. How many people were on your team at that time?
Gosh, I think I started with about 10 on my team and eventually grew to 21.
21. So 21 people, and we won't spend a whole bunch of time, but then you come back to OSU,
Right.
just you by yourself, and then here recently kind of got a team again. Talk to me about what you have learned to be consistent in order to serve your team, and do you look at leadership as a thing of serving others?
Oh, it's got to be about serving others. It really does, and I had kind of some aha moments in the last 9 months. So yeah, I left Meridian in October of 21 to come to OSU. Talk about, because I had my PhD, that opportunity. The Spear School of Business wanted to start the Center for Social and Business Impact, and they needed somebody who understood higher ed, and they needed somebody who understood business and industry, and that's kind of what I had done. I had that combination, but I get there, it's a concept on paper, and it's just me. I went through a real I figured out the word. I grieved not having a team. Like I did not know that about myself. I have a deep need to serve, a deep need to connect with people. I knew I loved it, right? I mean, I loved my time at Meridian and the group I worked with, and it's, friends that become family kind of thing. And so those first couple months at OSU were really hard. And I didn't put a word to it till about January of like, I grieved. I'm missing people, and I miss pouring into people. And then about 30 days ago, had an opportunity. They are combining my new center with an existing center, and we've created the Center for the Future of Work, which I'm so excited about, but had an existing group of people. And it is right now, my job is just to get to know them and to understand what motivates them, what they need. So I am totally into servant leadership. I found that it's how you get stuff done.
Yeah.
When you love on people, right?
Yeah,
that. And I years ago, I heard, you do things for the glory of God, benefit of others, and your joy. And I figured out, when you get those first two right, that joy just comes.
Yeah.
And then out of that overflow, it's so easy to do the first two, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. What else, as a leader, though, you show up every day to allow for your team to do their best work. What are some other things that you learned over the years? Once a week, every day, or some things, some rhythms that you developed?
Yeah, and I borrow, I read a lot. I mean, I listen to podcasts, listen to this. So some pretty influential books along the way for me have been a book called The Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner. It's probably, 40 years old now, but they talk a lot about encouraging the heart as a leader, that you need to do that. You need to...
what does that look like, to encourage?
Encourage the heart is coming alongside of folks and, finding out what's important to them, having empathy for things that are difficult for them, celebrating with them when they do succeed in something, answering those questions so that they don't have obstacles in their mind, giving them that information, but kind of being that cheerleader along the way. And, the importance of creating a shared vision. So oftentimes I think we as leaders, we know the end result, or we know what vision we're trying to create, but we don't always get it out of our head and really clarify it for the team. And so the Leadership Challenge really helped me understand the importance of that and taking time to do that. And so leadership challenge was really important to me. Then strengths-based leadership. So I'm a huge proponent of the Gallup Strengths Finder, and understanding not only my own strengths and how to lead out of those naturally, but I need to know your strengths so that I can engage those for you. Because if, their research, Gallup has tons of research and data that supports that if you get to operate out of your strengths, the majority of the time, you're going to be more engaged, more productive, and more fully satisfied, both personally and professionally. And when I can get you to bring your best like that, and great example, I had 4 folks working on my team that were kind of supposed to do community outreach, make connections with our clients. And 2 of them, they were very relational. Well, Marcy Luter, she's great. You can send her to chamber events. You can send her to meetings, and she's going to work the room, and she's going to say hello. Well, I had another gentleman who, that was awful for him. Like, I mean, he'd rather go to the dentist and have all his teeth pulled without, anesthesia, like without pain medicine. Like, but I was like, all 4 of these positions are the same. We will all achieve our goals the same way. Here's the outcome. And strengths-based leadership made me realize, wait a second. I can give him the same goal, but I don't have to expect him to achieve it in just the same way. And so figured out he was a learner, he was analytical. And so what I would do is I'd connect with a company and they've got a problem to solve. I'd put him on that problem and he'd go do the research and he'd dig deep, he'd find solutions. And then I'd say, okay, now go call them and talk with them. And he was easy to build relationship, but the thought of going to a networking event, and by me making him do that, I was sucking the life out of him. Yeah. And so I learned that if I did something consistent with my team, it was know their strengths and find ways for them to use it a majority of the time. Now, can they use it all the time? No, right? I mean, there are some things that work is work and that tasks just have to get done, and a position has to do that task. But if I can find ways to, the majority of the time, they get to play to their strengths and things that fill their bucket, then it's easier to power through those other things. Or can I give them tools or partners to help the grind?
Yeah. No, that's so good. So I think I hear you saying find ways to encourage them based on what brings them joy, what gets them excited. It's kind of like knowing their love language. And then how do I consistently allow for them to do work that lines up with their strengths, right?
Right.
And so sometimes you can't always get to that place, but you try to do your best.
Right.
Because that's when you're going to get the most out of them.
Exactly. And the important, I think the other lesson I learned too was be open to those conversations, right? Make it a safe place that if you worked for me, you could come and go, okay, Rebecca, you've got me working on this. And it is just like you've stepped on my oxygen, right? Like I can't breathe and I'm going to power through it, but can I look, you need to give them permission to come tell you it's not playing to my strength. So what can we do? And how can we modify job tasks or find new projects or engage partnerships, but making it a safe place to come in, have those conversations, or even better, I learned, build in those conversations, right? So I typically, from a team standpoint, we had a weekly huddle, 15-minute stand-up meeting. Everybody had 3 minutes. We set a timer, stand around the room, 3 minutes. What was your win? Because we're all about go win, right? So what was your win from last week? What are you committing to do this week that moves us towards our goals? What challenges are you having? And what asks do you have of the group? So it's 3 minutes to go through those things. Everybody gets on the same page, knows who's doing what, figure out, oh, Marcy, I have a question for you. We can talk offline, but it just gets everybody in the same page. So we had 15-minute huddle ups. And then every other week I met with my direct reports. And during those every other week meetings, I made sure at least once a month to say, how you doing? Do you think you're playing to your strengths the majority of the time? What's working well? What's not? Because then it says the door's open for you to have that conversation with me. And And I had to learn that process because I'm a little bit of an achiever and we're going to hit goals and productivity.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, let's talk,
Let's
you know,
do it.
let's go down that checklist and really talk about it.
Yeah.
And I kind of learned over the years, I need to dial it back a little and make sure that we have the, hey, how are you conversation as part of it.
That's good. How did you, was there a reminder? Was there an app? Was there an alarm you set to make sure, hey, it's the 30th. I need to ask Elaine, check in and see how she's feeling, how she's doing.
It just got kind of a bit of a rhythm. And then too, you begin to really read and understand people, right? And you begin to see, it's just being fully present and fully listening, right? So, Hetty just walked in and his shoulders are a little more slumped, or I didn't get the, good day. I didn't get your usual greeting. Yeah. Oh, okay. Something's up. I need to be sure to ask. So then it became a little more natural for me, to do that. So, and I think I had a bit of intuitiveness in some of that. So, I can't say it was a big app, kind of thing. I do have a file. I'm a bit analog. I try to be digital on some things, but some things are a bit analog still. But I had a folder for people that I could, so that I didn't bombard them with emails or notes or whatever, that just had a kind of an ongoing running sheet that I could make notes. You can use OneNote. I'm trying to be a little more.
Yeah, you're trying to get into the digital world. You trying? I see you. I see OneNote's good.
So now I have notebooks with every
little Microsoft. Yeah.
So so I can put those little notes in there of ask about this or strengths check in. So I had that tickler file. Like I said, I was paper for a while, but I'm trying to be digital.
Yeah. I just know that in as much as we understand that those things work, the challenge for me is like, hey, let me make sure that I'm doing these check-ins. And sometimes we can just get caught up and then you're like, it's been 2 months, Right. But one of the things I have is I call it a discussion map. And so it's a template for every time I sit down with, and it has life check-in. It has how can I serve you better? It has.
That's good.
Yeah. So, and then my notes, then you just have a running list of notes, or I use Notion. And so each meeting, I just create a new.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Thing, but I use the same template every time.
Well, good. With my new team, I may have to try this.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. So, no, really good. Okay, so we kind of just jumped right in this. Tell people, you kind of told people about what you do and who you are. And have loved kind of getting at the beginning of this, some of just you interacting with your team and how you're helping people getting better, your PhD. Just tell people a little bit about where you're from and it's a little different, but I like to be different. So.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't know where to start. I was listening to somebody earlier podcast said they started at birth talking to you or something.
At zero. Yes. I'm like, no, bro.
Yeah.
No, wherever you want to start it. Where are you from originally?
Okay, so I grew up in Midwest City. I think we had this. Our friendship almost broke up, you and I, because
Carl Albert.
Yes, I was a Carl Albert grad. Yeah. So, but
we're still praying for her.
Yeah. Because we had worked together for 2 years.
And I did not know that.
No, and I felt like I kind of cheated on you or something. It was bad.
I think of course, you knew I was from Guthrie. You were just keeping the secret.
Right. I didn't want to.
I don't want to mess this up.
Exactly. Our friendship was too important for me to reveal that truth. But
Carl Albert, the Titans.
Yeah. So, anyway, I grew up in Midwest City, but moved away after college, worked Texas, Colorado, that kind of thing, but came back and started working in the hospitality industry here when I had the chance to moved to OSU and actually began working on my doctorate and then got hired into a clinical faculty role, but I wanted more of a tenure track role. So that pursuit of the PhD kind of happened there. And but one of the best things that ever happened to me was to go to Meridian. And so I was their director of workforce and economic development for 12 years and did that up until October of 21. But just that's where you and I met, just kind of that. I loved working in the Guthrie community and all the communities around the Meridian's district. Just loved getting to know the people and the businesses and organizations there. And so October of 21, come back to the Spear School of Business at OSU. And now we're the Center for Center for the Future of Work. And it's really kind of combining some personal passions about social impact and my drive to make a difference in the world. I think we can do good while we do well. And I think businesses can do good while they do well, and want to be a part of helping shape that. And we have a generation coming into higher ed that's pushing us to do that. They want to work for businesses that have a heart. They want to work for businesses that are doing good, that they're good to the environment, they're good to their people, they're inclusive, they provide opportunity, they believe in things like social justice. They believe in things that are the greater good and not just the bottom line. And so so the Center for the Future of Work has that element to it through research, innovation, and social impact. And then we also see, and again, we've experienced this, I think, coming out of COVID, the landscape of what it looks like for us with the technology disruptions, when you have consumers and employees who want more of a heart in an organization, you have things like challenges of finding enough workforce right now. So that's making you look at efficiencies. It's making you look at automation. And so what we're trying to do with the center is how do we educate students to work in a hybrid or a remote environment? How do we make them good employees in that environment? How do we help organizations know how to better do that? How do you lead a virtual team? Or great example, you look at an Amazon warehouse right now, and forklift drivers are hard to find. So instead, you can get robotic. It's like big Roomba forklifts. And so you can hire one person that has to manage maybe 10 of these robotic forklifts, but do they know how to code for that? Do they know how to repair them if they go down? Do they know how to watch, and the analytics from behind all of that? So that's a different skill set than what might have been hired in that position. So are companies ready to use that kind of disruptive technology? Do they know how to manage and lead within that environment? And then do we have a workforce that's ready to work in that skill set? It's just kind of interesting. I mean, what does the future of work look like? And how can we be more corporate, socially responsible in that? So we've got this element of education and outreach. And I call that kind of talent development, people. The research and innovation, social impact for me, that's kind of process. And then we're going to create a student agility lab to make sure they have the skill sets that they need. They can spin that up quickly in addition to their degree. But it's, I might be an art history major, but they keep asking if I know how to do data analytics. Can I come get a crash course in that? And so our student agility lab will be a piece of that. And so that's the technology. And so it's people, process, technology, all in a desire to create stronger local and regional economies and community well-being.
So that sounds really big, right?
You're telling me.
That sounds real. How do you make that small, like month by month? What is the approach on in that?
And that's a little bit
Of what you're learning?
What I'm learning and what I'm learning about leading people. So there was this existing team that did a lot of that education and training and development, but they've kind of been doing the same things, just sort of rinse and repeat. And that's where we knew we needed to do some innovation. While it was good, it's probably not going to meet the needs moving forward. And so for me, I can kind of see that and begin to process that out. But I've got a group of people over here going, but what does that mean to us? What are we going to change? What are we going to do? And so right now, my focus and how I'm choosing to kind of break that down is we have an existing group. Let's start there. And this is so hard to do, but we evaluated all the programs and I had them engage in this process of what value does it bring, whether it's to the individual, the client. We have to earn, right? You know, we've got to generate some dollars. And then what's the popularity of it? Kind of just a 2x2 matrix. And the things that are a star that are really popular and add value, let's keep those. We'll keep doing those. Won't throw those out. But the ones that are not adding value, the ones that are not very popular, those are what we'll call dogs. We're taking a look at those and going, okay, let's stop doing those so that we can start doing things that are more relevant, that meet the need that we're talking about. And kind of where I get angst sometimes of just, oh, it doesn't have to be done tomorrow. Like, I mean, this is a crock pot, not a microwave. And I have to remind myself. And then I have to be sure to remind them. Because that's been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and I think whenever you can grasp it, like, oh, this is a crock pot, we can kind of go slow. Not saying that we're just not trying to be intentional about moving forward, but then it kind of makes you relax. I think you feel like you can innovate, you know, because you can try some things, fail at it, try again, and do those things. What is 1 year from now like for you, like when you're thinking about the work that you're doing, which is amazing, and going in and out of these different businesses serving this population, what does a year from now look like for you? Like a common person like myself could understand, like, Hetty, a year from now, this is what...
Yeah. You know, the first year is probably more internal focused, which sounds, that's the direction I'm going. We'll see if that's good. But we had some antiquated processes. We have an opportunity, you know, I'm telling you, I'm kind of analog. They're really analog.
Yeah. You knew that you had to do some work with somebody who was more analog than you. Yeah. In 2022.
Right. So we are really looking internally, because as I'm visiting with them, I'm like, what frustrates you the most out of what you're doing with this? And they're going, oh, we enter stuff into this system, we enter stuff into this system, and then we have a paper version. We're like, oh my, we got to work on this. And so we're really looking how we do project management. So we're engaging and looking at those options. You know, there's a lot of great tools out there that are digital that, oh, if we get this project management tool, it also takes care of this for us. And so again, this first 12 months is looking at what programs can we offload? Because, I mean, you know, when you're trying to be creative and innovative, you need white space. You need some think time. And if we are so busy churning and burning that we're not being, you know, we don't have time to innovate. And so trying to get some stuff off their plate, trying to look at where we can create some efficiencies in what we do, and then talking to our client base first. What do you want? What, you know, we pivoted like the rest of the world. Stuff that they used to offer in person, we quickly turned and we made it virtual. And now we're going back to our clients to say, do you like virtual? Do you like a hybrid? Do you want an option for both? Because that changes then who's on the team, right? What skill sets do we need? What kind of equipment, right? What kind of time do we need to lead projects and do things? And so internally for the first 12 months, but by then, hopefully the outcome is we've got great processes, we have got some efficiencies, and then we're working and collaborating with others to go, okay, how can we meet the needs of the businesses and the individuals that we serve?
I like it.
So,
let's kind of go back to, you know, from Midwest City, education. You're still in education, higher ed. Who are some teachers that made a great impact on you?
There's a long list. I get goosebumps when I think about it. And it can be everybody from Mrs. Proctor in the 3rd grade at Soldier
Ms.
Creek
Proctor.
Elementary School. Bless her sweetheart.
What is it that you loved about Ms. Proctor?
You know, in fact, I think when I think of all of these, it's probably the same thing. you feel seen and heard with them. And she was the sweet third grade grandma kind of teacher that would give you that hug. And she could read. Oh, she read Stuart
I
Little.
love great readers.
I mean, we would have that quiet time in
Have
the
you on
classroom.
the edge of the seat?
Yes, and you just couldn't
Those are the
wait
best teachers.
until tomorrow when we got to read the next chapter. But she just, more than that, just made me feel seen and heard as a third grader, and I got the chance. She moved with us, so I had her multiple grades.
yeah.
So I think that's why that
She
connection
had a
there.
little bit, deeper
And then
connection.
Jan Williamson in high school. She was an English teacher there at Carl Albert.
Why do I feel like you could have been an English teacher?
Oh, I don't know.
I just feel like that could, I
Really?
can see you being some type of author and teaching. Yeah, I know. Just listening to her, I'm like, okay, just keep talking, don't stop. The passion for her work, it just comes out when she starts. She's always been like that ever since I've known her. I think you've been blessed to be able to love the work you do.
Oh, I have been. And it's because you're exposed to people that love what they do, right? And so you're like, oh, I want to be, figure that secret out. But Jan Williamson, she was tough, and she taught me a good leadership lesson, and I don't know if she knew it, but I knew her. Our families went to church together, so I babysat her kids. I kind of knew her, but then I got her in class, and I'm like, who are you? She had this list of rules on the door, these 12 rules. You don't do this, and don't do this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I can remember getting in her class, and she goes through those, and after, the first week, I'm like, Mrs. Williamson, you're like two different people. And she says, I'm going to tell you a little something. She goes, I have to start that way. It's easier to lighten up, right?
Yeah.
Than it is to start loose and have to tighten up.
That's good.
And so I thought, okay, I think you can do that with your team and employees, and as trust builds and as things like that. You got to start a little tight and loosen up versus start loose and tighten up.
Yeah.
But she also had a passion for vocabulary and vocabulary words. And so I just learned new words and, and it was just, she was hard. She challenged you, but she had a sense of humor about it. But then it was that seen and heard. It was outside of the classroom, walking down the hallway. And if she saw me talking to a boy she didn't know, she stepped in. It was a little embarrassing. When I was 16, I didn't appreciate it quite like
You
I
appreciate
do
it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't think I know you, young man. And
That's
I'm just
good.
like, oh my gosh, go away. But
Embarrassing me.
But I knew she had my best interest at heart. And so she was important there. And then in college, my committee chair, my dissertation advisor, Bill Ryan, Dr. Ryan just retired from OSU after 41 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Oh Lord.
But again, that seen and heard, it was one thing to get me through the process, but it was another of Kyle, my husband Kyle, he's out of town. I'm trying to power through this dissertation. I show up at Dr. Ryan's house. I'm knocking on the door and I'm just like, I can't do this. It's like a Friday night. He's trying to have a nice dinner with his wife. And I'm just like, this is terrible. And I'm not going to make it. And he's like, okay, come in. Let's sit down. And he was so nice. He and his wife, Rita, just came around me and talked me through it. And okay, where's Kyle? He's out of town till tomorrow.
Where's your husband at?
He's like, okay, well, you're just gonna stay here. And then it was this 24-hour period, and then Kyle comes over for dinner with all of us the next night. So it was that that part of, I'm gonna give you technically what you need to know as a teacher, but then I'm also going to care about you as a person. And that's what I saw. Mrs. Proctor, Jan Williamson, and
That's
Bill
good.
Ryan. So
that is so good. Yeah, and I think for most people, I think that's what they would say because that's a common question that I ask people, like, who's that teacher for you? And oftentimes it goes back to this seen and felt heard by them. But at the same time, they brought a light bulb moment on for you in some way, and which is so great about being an educator, I think, or
Yeah.
being able to teach people and move them forward in that way. Tell me about your husband and
Yeah, he's so awesome.
yeah. Where did y'all meet?
So I've known him since I was 9. We grew up going to the same church in Midwest City. He's older than I was, so we laugh but looking back at youth group activities because
Yeah.
I was a 7th grader and he was a senior. You know,
Okay.
so you're like, yeah, no. But it's very different as you get into your 30s.
It is.
You're like,
No, it's way different. But at 12th grade and 7th grade, it's not.
Not okay.
It's not
so the good news is we did not date then.
no. I figured that.
So I've known him and his family, and our siblings were all kind of interspersed at school. He was a bomber. He went to Midwest City, but his sisters went to Carl Albert, and so we all kind of knew each other. But then you have to fast forward 15, 20 years almost, so or more. So he became a game warden. He lived in Frederick, Oklahoma, and I went to OSU. Then I moved to Texas, Colorado, come back, see each other at Christmas, get the hey neighbor wave, kind of thing. And I moved back to Oklahoma in 2000. And landed back in Midwest City and went to church where my family had gone to church, and there he is, and so we just kind of made this connection again as adults. And he had worked in human resources and had an interest in training and development. I had been in hospitality, working in human resources, training and development. We just kind of started talking and hanging out, and I laugh because, typical small town churches, like my family sat on one side of the sanctuary and his family sat on the other. And so that first Sunday that I go to sit over there, I think there was an audible whisper.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like, what is going on? They're messing up this is messing up everything. Yeah.
And then when we got engaged, all these sweet little old ladies were like, we've been praying for y'all, and it's wonderful. I tell people we're probably the closest thing to an arranged marriage, in
Now,
our
how long
culture.
have you been married now?
20 years.
20
So,
years. Wow.
Yeah.
So this, I feel like we've been talking this whole time about relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
You interacting with your team, teachers that have made a great impact on you. The most important relationship, outside of our faith in our relationship with God is our spouse.
Right.
What are some key things there that has allowed for you all to have not a perfect relationship, right?
No.
But a healthy one. What are some things that you
Yeah, and full disclosure, we
teach
had
Bernadette
Yeah.
and you all's ways?
well, it was a second marriage for both of us,
Okay.
and I think that both of us were incredibly disappointed, I think, in ourselves and that of wow, we didn't do that right for either of us the first time, and so I think we were very intentional about our marriage, and I think that's one thing we have both learned, and we kind of realized, I can remember Kyle saying to me, I'm not always really good at telling you, I love you on a regular basis. And he goes, I know that about myself. So if I forget to do that, right? Or if you need me to tell you that, speak up. And for me, it's I'll read into a lot of things. So, I know this about myself. I'm going to misinterpret. And so you need to be really clear with me, on something. Otherwise, I'm going to make it up. And so that intentionality of us kind of knowing needs and expectations of being able to talk about those things and be very deliberate. So I kind of think we knew our mistakes. And so we, it's like, okay, we don't want to make those again. We're very intentional about laughter, as I know you all are. And we know we need to take our relationship seriously, but we don't need to take ourselves too seriously. And that if we call them those bumpy days, if we see one bumpy day leads to a week of bumpy days, we just go, okay, time out. What is going on? We have not laughed. We have not been silly. We, then just to be intentional about that. And we do things like surprise date night. We we alternate who does surprise date night. It's about every other month. And so surprise date night is you just say, hey, are you available Friday, July the 1st? You know, are you available this date? And they go, okay, block the calendar. But you don't tell them what you're doing. And so one of my favorites was Mind to Plan. We went to dinner, and then I took him to Meridian for a balloon art class, and we learned to make balloon animals.
Wow. What's he like? Are you serious?
But he's quite good at it.
Do they still have that class?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
So if you get a chance, it's a lot of fun,
That's good.
and you can
That's
work
good.
kids' birthday parties after
That's
that.
so good. What else? What else do you think in y'all's relationship that you?
Another one, we got on the same page about money. You know, and I know that sounds so formal or whatever, but we agreed going into it how we were going to handle money. And he is that crazy saver and very orderly, like everything should be on a spreadsheet. And like, you know, for me, I'm like, you know, I think there's money in the checkbook. You know, so I'm just kind of that lily of the valley, you know, it'll all be all right.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not. And so it's real easy to have some conflict, what I think is unnecessary conflict. And so we agreed we'll do monthly budgets. I said, okay, well, it can't feel like a meeting. You know, don't come with all your Excel spreadsheets and colored pencils and stuff. I said, take me out to dinner. Like, you know, like, let's make it, you know, like, we have to go out to dinner. You can bring the spreadsheet with you to fill in and, you know, all that. But it needs to feel a little bit more fun and that it's a conversation and it's not you being my dad telling me what my allowance is this month. And so that has really helped us. I can remember one of the most devastating things, though. We go out to eat. We're at a restaurant and we laugh about calling it the budget committee meeting. So we have the budget committee meeting and we've got our, you know, our little forms that we fill in each month. Cause we spend your money on paper first, right?
Yeah.
And then you can, the rest of the month is easy.
So is the form filled out for the month coming up?
Right. So for example, we should have had a budget committee meeting last night. We didn't, but we'll
We should
probably
have had ours Monday.
Yeah. So, you know,
Today's Friday. So.
Yeah. So we'll do it this week. And so, yeah, you sit down and we have a form and we spend. So what's coming up in the month, we're going to just plan it on paper so that there's no surprises. We're like, oh, we're going to vacation this month or we want to donate or we want to, you know, that's what's, I think, made money fun, you know, and you can do fun things. And so anyway, so we agreed to do it. But so we have this budget committee meeting. We're at this restaurant and I guess it looked like a business meeting or something because the waitress comes up and she goes, would you like this on 2 checks? I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I must not have looked at you lovingly at all during the meal. Like we look like we're business partners.
Disappointed in this whole meeting.
I said, okay, we have taken this too far if it looks like a business meeting. But seriously, being on the same page about money and agreeing, and for us, there's a great book, Love and Respect was a book that was out there for a while. And I know there's some theology in it that not everybody agrees with, but I learned a lot about, for Kyle, that need for respect is more important than even the I love you. Whereas I need the I love you, right? Yeah. I need the love piece. But for me, so he can view it as disrespectful when I break the budget or I don't, you know, when I kind of just spend willy-nilly without having that conversation with him. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's just kind of he's like, hey, I don't, you know, if you want to go buy a really nice pair of shoes, that's great. Let's just budget for it. You know, it's not like he's holding it down. It's just that, just kind of my disregard or what can appear as disregard for him. So we had to really kind of learn that from each other, and I had to go, okay, you can come out of your cave and have fun. So let's but no, he does. And so because of that, we don't have children. So, you know, that, and we have 2 incomes. So that gives us some opportunity to do some fun things and travel and that kind of thing. And we enjoy that. And, you know, and we find things that we like to do together. Yeah. That's the important thing. But then we also find things that we do apart.
That's good.
Because you got to have both, right? You know, my time and coffee with the girls is just as important as my hanging out and doing something with him.
That's good. Good. All right, so we're going to do Fast Five.
Oh, gosh.
These are 5 questions you can only answer with one word or one sentence. You can deviate if you want. But if you could change one thing about Stillwater, what would it be?
More quality of life kind of activities.
If you could add one field of study to OSU, what would it be that's not already there? Major or whatever you would call it.
Ooh, that's big. Oh my gosh, that's a huge question.
It could be fun.
It can be fun. Balloon art. No, I'm just kidding.
Nope, we're going with balloon art. You are starting the School of Balloon Art. It's going to have your name on it, too.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Rebecca Eastman.
Yeah, and we'll have a PhD program.
That's good. Okay, one of your favorite things about Guthrie America?
Oh, the people, first and foremost. The friendliest, kindest, community wins people. And it was so fun because you and I met as you stepped into a role that I think really influenced that. Yeah. And so the people, first and foremost, incredibly welcoming and kind. Another fun thing I think about Guthrie is just what you're doing in the film industry. And, you know, it's fun to drive down the street and you have to deviate because there's some cool film crew going on. And Kyle's been an extra in a couple, so that's been good for our family. And then Hoboken coffee.
It's like 5 things. See how you deviated from my... All right, here we go. You wake up tomorrow. Where are you going? You go anywhere in the world.
Oh, anywhere in the world? I want to Greece. I want to go to the Greek Isles.
That's where she wants to go.
Oh, no. Okay, we'll leave them at home and we will just go and, find some island to just get on. So, the Greek Isles is on my list.
Okay. So. What's the one thing you would tell yourself, your younger self?
One thing. It's a pretty long list. Trust the Lord more. Quit trying to do it yourself.
That's good.
Because the times I try to do it myself.
Yeah.
But for the Lord.
So good. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Oh, what a fun time. So great to spend time with you guys.
Yeah,
and
thank you for your friendship. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for always just being amazing.
Oh.
And keep up the great work.
Thank you. It's been great today.
You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman Podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.